What's going on, everybody? Tim from Tirfon Orbital. So this is going to be a very short demo video for the client. This is a Dennis Lukyanov Crimson Lord Gen 1 with a Goth Eco chassis. So luckily I don't have to go over any of the chassis design or anything like that because this is not my chassis. But I'm going to go over what it was installed in the chassis, and we'll go over how to put it in the hilt, and we'll do a quick demo. And that's it, right? So let's do top down. Here we are. This is the Dennis Lukyanov Crimson Lord Gen 1. There is a Gen 2 out now. This is the first generation. It is a staff. The client did not send the fins with this one, which was easy to ship back and all that good stuff. So pretty straightforward. Straight staff hilt. It is hollow throughout. It does have a very long chassis that goes into it. These silver slots on the side, these are the buttons. So you've got a main and an aux and a main and an aux. And let me talk about the chassis because it'll be a little more easy to understand how those buttons work when you look at the chassis. So this is the chassis, okay? We've got two Proffie boards that control each blade in the staff, okay? Each Proffie board has its own kill switch, and those tactile switches along the side line up with those silver buttons along the outside of the hilt, okay? So we did not go with crystals in this chassis. We just went with a bare bones install. 22mm Veco speakers on each end of the chassis. I was a little surprised that Goth's specs called for 22mm speakers. In my opinion, you could have fit 24s, maybe even 28mm speakers in this, but the chassis design did not allow for that. I do believe that the newer version of Goth's chassis does call for 28mm speakers, but this one, however, is the smaller 22mm. And on each end, we've got lit PCBs, okay? So let's go over how to use this guy. So keep in mind where your springs are. Spring side is your negative in this chassis, this giant behemoth of a chassis. So you want to take the flat part of your battery and put it in negative side towards the spring. You do that for each side. Okay. So I already had that on. When you put your batteries in, if you don't hear an audible cue, you want to hit your kill switches. Okay. So let's go over how to put it into the hilt, right? So there are two ends, obviously. Duh, Tim. There are two sleeves, black sleeves. This is how I've been doing it. There's a thicker side and a thinner side. You take the thicker side and unscrew the top. All right. Now, take note of where those tactile switches are. And take note of where these silver buttons are. You want to put the chassis in so the switches are towards the top. Okay, and that's going to slot in. There's like a channel along the length of the chassis. That's going to slot in past those switches. You push it all of the way in until it stops. And then you want to screw the top part in. That's it. Nice and simple, right? And then you're ready to go. So I do want to take note while we're down here to tighten the blade retention screw. So there's one blade retention screw under this red band. The other one is exposed. It's right here, okay? So to get at that, you want to unscrew this top emitter section a little bit until you can slide that red sleeve. Well, you can just take it off. Slide the red sleeve up, and there's the set screw for the blade, okay? So let's come down to the bottom, all right? So there it is. Let's activate it. So the top button is your, well, I mean, it depends on which way the hilt's situated. This button is your aux for both Proffie boards. So now remember, each silver button, think of it this way, each silver button is one of the boards. So top is your aux, bottom is your main, okay? Twist to activate is also on. twist to deactivate is also on. So let's put a blade, let's put blades in them. Actually, you know, I don't know that I'm going to put blades in both. Well, you know what? Why not? Let's do it. Why not? So like I mentioned, that top one, the set screw is underneath that red like aluminum band, right? So let me try and do this with two hands, both hands. So you set your blade in and then tighten those set screws. Okay. Let's flip it around. Same thing with this side, just kind of rest the blade on those pins, those PCB brass pins, and then tighten your set screw. And then you're ready to go. So here we go. Hopefully I don't knock the wall over there. So all of your clash buttons work. I can't clash. There we go. So that's lock up on the one blade. There's lock up on the other blade. Twist to activate and deactivate is on, all that good stuff. So just a nice straightforward, excuse me. And that's it. Nice and simple walkthrough. You know, it's nice when I get a pre-made chassis sometimes because I don't have to worry about designing a custom one. And Goth's chassis are always very easy to. I'm going to roll that back because I'm actually doing a Goth MPP like master chassis right now. So they're not always easy to install on, but typically his eco chassis are easy. And this one was wide open for the most part, so it was an easy install. Yeah, just not, you know, not a big fan of the 22mm speakers in this particular setup because I feel like with the Lukyanov Crimson Lord Gen 1, there's not a lot of venting. So you'll tell, you'll like when the chassis is outside of the hilt, it is significantly louder than when the chassis is installed. But that's just how the design is, and that's the caveat with that older chassis design. So enough rambling. This is not a review video. To the client, thank you very much for your patience and trusting me with the build. To the viewers, if anyone has any questions, please, as always, don't be a stranger. Reach out. Leave a comment below if you want. If you don't want to, that's fine. And with that being said, we're done. May the force be with you, always.